You think you've outgrown fear. You've done the inner work, rewired your mind, broken cycles. But if life still feels stuck, heavy, or like you're waiting on something, there's a hidden pattern at play. Because fear doesn't always scream, it whispers. And worst of all, it wears masks. Masks that look like strength, strategy, and even spirituality. Comment below. I reclaim my time and energy and space, because what you reclaim from fear becomes power in its purest form. Welcome. Today, we're going to reveal one of the most deceptive signs that you're still operating from fear, even if your conscious mind swears you've moved on. Because fear rarely comes dressed as panic. It shows up as logic, caution, independence, maturity. And if you don't know how to see through the costume, you'll live by it unknowingly. This first sign is the one most people miss, and it's one that's hardest to let go of because it gives the illusion of control. Sign number 1. You mistake control for power. Read that again, because this one masquerades as being in charge. You think you're being strong, setting boundaries, moving with clarity. But what you're actually doing is gripping life too tightly. You plan, you analyze, you anticipate. You feel uneasy when things are uncertain, so you micromanage outcomes, people, timing, and your own emotions. You might call it being responsible. You might call it having standards. But underneath that surface, there's a fear of chaos, of unpredictability, of losing control. And so, your power becomes a cage. A polished, well-structured prison you built to feel safe. Let's get even deeper. Real power doesn't come from domination. Real power is rooted in trust. It's knowing that even when things go off script, you are still in alignment. It's feeling peace in the storm, not because you stopped the rain, but because you no longer fear getting wet. If you're still trying to control every conversation, every outcome, every possibility, your nervous system doesn't feel safe in surrender. And guess what? That's fear, not strength. But it's seductive. Control gives you the illusion that you're safe, that nothing can surprise you, that if you work hard enough to get it right, you can avoid pain. But that's the language of fear, not faith. Faith says, even if it breaks, I'll rise. Fear says, if I can't guarantee it won't break, I won't even try. And this addiction to control, it steals your freedom. You say you want change, expansion, newness, but at the same time, you're afraid of what you can't calculate. You delay moves. You second-guess your intuition. You demand certainty. All because fear told you. It's safer if you stay in charge. Let this land. Control is not power. Control is a trauma response with a crown on its head. You don't need to command everything. You need to trust yourself to respond, to adjust, to flow, even when it all shifts unexpectedly. Power is knowing you're still the alchemist, even when the ingredients change. So ask yourself, are you controlling, or are you in your power? Do you move from trust or from tension? Are you flexible, or are you just fearful of the unknown? Take your time with that. The truth doesn't always feel good at first, but it sets you free. And when we continue, we'll reveal another mask that fear wears. One that almost every strong person secretly carries. Sign number 2. You confuse hyper-independence with healing. You've been through enough to know that not everyone can be trusted. You've learned the hard way that not everyone shows up, keeps their word, or loves with intention. So you built your own safety net. You became your own protector. And now, you rely on no one. You ask for nothing, You keep your inner world guarded, polished, and private. It sounds like empowerment. It even looks like strength. But under that fierce independence is a soul that no longer believes it's safe to receive. You see, fear doesn't always make you run. Sometimes it makes you shut down, quietly, behind emotional walls no one even knows are there. You do everything alone, not because you always want to, but because you've trained yourself to believe that needing others is dangerous, vulnerable, risky. And so, without realizing it, you equated solitude with safety. And now every time someone gets too close, you pull away, not from them, but from your own buried fear of betrayal, abandonment, or disappointment. Let's make it real. There's a difference between solitude and self-isolation, between choosing your peace and using it as armor. Hyper-independence is not always a sign of strength. It's often a leftover from times you had no choice but to survive on your own. And now that you've healed, or think you've healed, it's the very thing keeping you from your next level of growth. Because real healing isn't just protecting yourself better. It's learning to trust again, to soften, to allow love, help, connection, and even intimacy without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Are you strong, or are you scared to depend? Are you sovereign, or are you silently suffering behind walls built from old wounds? Hyper-independence is the voice of fear that says, if I let them in, I'll lose myself. If I need anyone, I'm weak. If I rely on them, they'll leave. And that voice, it's not yours. It's a story written by your past, still playing on a loop, until you stop and rewrite it. True power is interdependence. It's the balance between self-sufficiency and sacred support. It's not, I don't need anyone. It's, I choose who's worthy to be close. There's a world of difference between isolation and discernment, between fear-driven distance and empowered space. You don't have to do it all alone anymore. You were never meant to. And the more you resist receiving, the more you repel the very blessings your spirit has been calling in. The next time you want to do it yourself, ask why. Is it your soul speaking, or your scars? When you're ready, we'll explore sign number 3, the most disguised fear of all, the one that even spiritual people cling to without noticing it. Shall we continue? Sign number 3. You chase constant productivity to outrun your inner stillness. We live in a world that rewards motion. The busier you are, the more value you seem to have. But what if I told you? The addiction to productivity is often the most accepted form of fear. Let's be honest. You don't sit still because it makes you restless. Not physically, spiritually. When everything gets quiet, when there's nothing left to achieve, to fix, or to control, you start to feel something you don't want to face. Stillness terrifies those who are afraid of meeting their own unprocessed emotions. And so, you stay busy. You overwork. You take pride in being always grinding, always moving, always chasing. But chasing what? A goal, a dream, or just an escape route from the void you feel when you finally stop. This is where fear hides in plain sight, in overscheduling, in endless to-do lists, in the illusion that if you keep moving, you're progressing. But progression without presence is just avoidance in motion, and avoidance is fear, dressed as ambition. You tell yourself you're being productive, but often you're performing productivity just to silence the quiet voice inside that says, are you okay when you're not being useful? Do you feel worthy when you're not being needed? Can you sit in peace without feeling empty? If the answer is no, fear is still running the show. Real growth isn't how much you get done. It's how well you can sit in stillness without the need to prove, to push, or to perform. Because that stillness, it holds the keys to your real self. And fear knows that if you slow down long enough, you'll hear the truth. The truth that your worth isn't in what you do. It's in who you are. That you were never meant to hustle your way to being enough. Many people confuse inner calling with constant busyness, but purpose and pressure are not the same. One flows from alignment. The other is fueled by fear. When you're truly aligned, you'll take inspired action, not anxious action. You'll stop living in urgency and start living in intention. That's the power of healing fear-based productivity. Because until you do, you'll keep burning out, not from doing too much, but from running from yourself. The fear isn't that you'll fail. The fear is that if you stop, you'll have to face what's been waiting inside. But here's the miracle. When you do face it, you stop operating from fear and you start building from truth. Sign number 4. You sabotage what you asked for because deep down, you don't feel safe having it. Let's get brutally honest. How many times have you prayed for something, manifested it, visualized it, only to push it away the moment it starts becoming real? A loving relationship starts to form, and suddenly you're overthinking, distancing, doubting. An opportunity lands in your lap, and somehow you're procrastinating, playing small, or telling yourself it's too good to be true. Why? Because fear doesn't just live in lack. It hides in your nervous system's definition of safety. And if your subconscious associates safety with struggle, chaos, or scarcity, then peace, love, and abundance will feel unfamiliar. And unfamiliar will feel dangerous. This is how fear tricks you into staying in survival mode, by making the life you want feel unsafe, and the life you hate feel normal. You'll sabotage calm. You'll doubt joy. You'll look for flaws in the people who actually treat you well, not because something's wrong, but because your nervous system hasn't recalibrated to receive. Fear doesn't always say run. Sometimes it whispers, this can't be real. And that single belief has blocked more blessings than failure ever could. So what's the antidote? You must teach your system that it's safe to receive what you asked for. You must normalize ease. Normalize being loved without struggle. Normalize being supported, seen, and selected without needing to prove your worth. You've been conditioned to associate stress with success. It's time to flip that script, because until you feel safe being happy, you'll unconsciously keep choosing situations that make you anxious. Sign number 5. You confuse control with security, and you refuse to surrender. This is the deepest one. Fear operates like a puppeteer, pulling strings through your need to control. You try to control outcomes, control people, control how others perceive you, control the timing of your dreams, your healing, even your own emotions. But control is a cage, and surrender is the door. We're taught that control is strength, that being in charge means being safe. But spiritual maturity reveals the opposite, that surrender isn't weakness. It's the highest form of alignment. When you're still operating from fear, surrender feels like death. Because fear tells you that if you let go, everything will fall apart. But the truth is, things fall apart when you cling to what no longer serves your evolution. Real power isn't about controlling what happens. It's about trusting who you'll become, no matter what happens. Fear needs a plan. Faith only needs presence. When you surrender, you shift from, I must figure it all out, to, I trust that my higher self already knows. This is where life stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling like a flow. You'll stop needing every answer and start aligning with divine timing. You'll stop hustling for love, chasing validation, or micromanaging your future. Because when fear no longer rules you, you become magnetic, not because of what you force, but because of what you allow. So now that you've seen the signs, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, which of these fears is still running the show? Awareness is step one. But the real alchemy begins when you choose differently. You no longer have to live from survival. You're not here to repeat cycles. You're here to break them, to feel the fear, and choose truth anyway. To recognize your programming, and still rewrite the code. To step out of fear, and finally live from power. The fear will scream, but your soul will whisper. And if you listen closely, you'll realize you've been ready to stop operating from fear all along. You're not who you used to be. You don't need to act like them anymore. Now, you lead from alignment, from love, from truth, and no one can take that from you.